Okay, streaming live.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our November 2022 board meeting. I'd like to start by recognizing and acknowledging the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. Welcome back, everybody. May I have a approval of the agenda, please? Would someone like to move that? Trustee Kwan, thank you.
Sorry.
Do we have any?
Do we have to approve the agenda before we ask for anything to be added, or?
Yeah, okay. We're just going to move that. So we'll move it, and then after we move it, then I'll ask for any amendments or changes. Yeah, we won't rush through it. We're just going to take our time tonight, and if there's any questions, please just do what Trustee Kwan did and feel free to interrupt me, and we'll go from there. So yes, so we just need to have a mover. So Trustee Kwan, thank you, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Mabubi. Okay, now I will ask for any amendments or changes. Trustee Kwan.
Yeah, I know that Trustee McNally had added a couple of motions which have been put, I believe, at new business H1. And I wondered, since they pertain both to, sorry, just there's one there. You can leave mine, the custodial one, at the end, but it's H1B. And I thought, since we have information or a motion to approve the Cedar Hill build at D2B, that perhaps we could move those motions ahead of the other motion there. I just think that it makes sense to have them all in the same place, and we can have a discussion at the same time about them.
Yeah, no, so we did get regrets from Trustee McNally, who was unable to attend, and also Trustee David, who was unable to attend tonight. I assume then that another colleague intends to move Trustee McNally's motion, in which case I think it does make sense to move it up the agenda. So the motion would be to move H1B to would then become D2B.
That's correct.
It would become the new D2B. Okay. All right. So now I think there's going to be a number of potential amendments. So let's see what else we've got and see if we can move them as a group. Trustee Carmichael, go ahead.
Sorry. Thanks. I know that we received a request from a parent to speak regarding Vic High and its pushback opening date. And I would like to have a motion to allow that parent to speak tonight.
Okay, so that would be a motion to add an additional presenter.
Yes.
So that would become A7B. Okay. All right, and then there's one, and sorry, and that was, I believe that that speaker was Kate Wallace. Is that correct?
It's actually Carrie Peter. Kate couldn't make it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for letting me know. All right, and then the only other amendment would be to just add the chairs that report. The written chairs report under C1B that I provided to staff and my colleagues, just to add that to the agenda. Okay, so any other amendments to the agenda? No, okay. So are we happy to move those as a group, or does someone want to pull those amendments out and vote on each amendment? We happen to move them as a group? All right, I'm seeing smiles from my colleagues. Okay, all right, so let's move the amendments to the agenda. I will move that motion, and we need a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Kwan. And that will be all those in favor of the amendments to the agenda with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. Thank you. And now we'll move the, we've got the amended agenda. And again, if I could have approval, then a vote on the amended agenda. All those in favor? All right, thank you very much. So we have an approved agenda, folks. Let's move into that. So we have a set of minutes first to approve. And can I have a mover? So we've got a couple of sets of minutes. We've got the October 24th regular board meeting minutes, and we also have the inaugural board meeting minutes. I suggest that we move them in turn just to keep things more straightforward. So can I have a mover for the October 24th minutes, please? Thank you, Trustee Painter. And a seconder? Trustee Kwan, thank you. Do we have any changes, amendments to those minutes? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? And again, that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees. The next set of minutes for approval is our November 9th inaugural board meeting minutes. May I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a second by Trustee Gagnon. Thank you. Any amendments or changes to those minutes? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor? And again, that is unanimous. Wonderful, thank you, folks. Do we have any business arising from the minutes? All right, seeing none, student achievement district presentations, we don't have any tonight. And so that moves us right into our community presentations. And the first presentation is from Paula Marquez. Now, before we move into those presentations, I'm just mindful that we have an additional speaker tonight. And I wonder if staff, Superintendent Whitten, do you have contact details for that individual so that they can be provided with the joining details for our meeting?
Through the chair, I do not, but I have made arrangements hopefully for them to get the Zoom link.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So Paula, welcome. The floor is yours. You have 5 minutes. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, trustees. I am grateful to be speaking to you from the unceded lands of the Lekwungen-speaking people. My name is Paula Marchese, and I'm a parent at Oak Bay Secondary and the current chair of AMUS, Advocacy for Music in Schools, as well as a member at large of VCPAC. AMUS is a subcommittee of VCPAC, and our members include parents, teachers, leaders of arts organizations in Victoria, and community members who see music education as a priority in our district schools at all levels. As many of you may be aware, when the previous Board of Trustees voted to eliminate elementary strings from last year's budget, AMUS raised over $208,000 in private funds, which was accepted by the Board of Education to keep the elementary strings program running for this current school year. We are very grateful to have received a large donation from the Patrick McNally Foundation, which was supplemented by donations from the Rifflandia Festival, many PACs and music PACs in our district, and private donors. We are thrilled that this program is much more equitable than it was previously. Elementary strings is now being offered in 25 out of 28 elementary schools in the district. This is compared to 16 out of 28 schools in the year before. Despite the increase in participating schools, the program staffing budget has remained the same, which means that many participating students are only getting strings classes 1 day per week. We hope this will be examined more closely by the current music review that is currently being undertaken by the district. 100% of the money we received last spring is being used by the district to provide staffing for this program. But in addition to music teachers, the students in this program also need equitable access to music instruments. AMUS has focused on the need for string instruments this fall, and we are excited to announce that we have applied for and received a Saanich Legacy Golden Jubilee Foundation grant for $3,000. In addition, Rifflandia Festival's partner businesses, which include Old Hat Hair Shop, Victory Barber and Brand, and the Zone radio station, have also donated a combined $7,000 to this initiative. The $10,000 that has been raised by Amos has been directed to the district's Coopersmith Music Library Center. We feel that this is the most equitable place for these funds that we have raised. The CSMLC benefits all general elementary students. It benefits all general elementary music educators, as well as choir and string students in the Greater Victoria School District. They house the majority of all choir and strings repertoire that music programs use, as well as all of the district's string instruments. The CSMLC is one of a kind, as there is no other public school lending library like it in Canada. The $10,000 raised by Amos will make it possible for the library to purchase used instruments in good condition so that families who cannot afford the regular price of string instrument rentals can borrow or rent instruments at little to no cost. We have been told by music teachers in the district that there is a great need for both cellos and violas and lots of bows. Thank you to the Saanich Legacy Foundation and the Victoria-based businesses who have made such generous contributions to the instrument side of the program. I also want to remind trustees that it is Amos and VCPAC's belief that music is an integral part of our students' learning. While funds were raised privately to keep elementary strings going for the current year, there are no plans right now to raise money to fund elementary strings for next year. It is our sincere hope that trustees will add an appropriate level of staffing back into next year's SD61 budget so that elementary strings can be funded by the province as it was before this year. We have heard again and again from parents, teachers, and students that they value music education because it is the great equalizer. It provides those students who do not fit in at school with a safe place. Music education gives our children the social, emotional, and mental stability that they need to thrive at school. Parents have much to say about music education and its importance to our kids. We hope that VCPAC, Amos, and parents in our district will be given the opportunity to give substantive input to the music review that is currently going on. To date, we have not been contacted for any input in this review. Parents have many questions about this review. Over the past few years, the district has received countless letters in support of music. We have had parents present to the Board of Trustees about the importance of music in our schools. Will the consultant be reviewing and incorporating all of that feedback, or do all of the people who have made countless and provided countless information to the district, will we be required to write again in so much detail? Amos and okay. Just one last sentence. Amos and VCPAC have submitted questions to the district, which have also been sent to trustees. We look forward to receiving answers to our questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us tonight, and thank you so much for your presentation. All right, folks. I'm wondering if our second presenter tonight has joined us.
Just joining, Chair.
Oh, wonderful. Hi there. Can you hear me? It's Trustee Duncan.
Hello.
Hi there. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi there. Yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm not sure if you presented to the board before, but just to let you know, presenters have 5 minutes at board meetings. I will let you know when you're nearing the end, or when you got to the end of that 5 minutes, and just ask that you wrap up. But when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to the board. My name is Carrie Peter. I'm the current PAC chair at Central Middle School. And I've also have been asked by the PAC president at Vic High to speak on behalf of students and families at Vic High as well. So in 5 minutes, it's going to be difficult to unpack 5 years, but just bear with me. I would like to just draw everybody's mindset to 2017. In 2017, I was the PAC chair of James Bay Community School. And at that time, I was informed by then Principal Mitchell that Mayor Lisa Helps was going to attend one of our PAC meetings. And at that time, the PAC was concerned that city funding was going to be taken away from the community center there. And as it turns out, in Mayor Help's attendance at the time, she indicated that no, it clearly was not any reason to be concerned about funding being taken away from the community center. She was there to listen and see how the city could help the school. During that meeting in 2017, there was no indication whatsoever of city involvement in part of a long-term facilities plan that was linked with the school district at the time, that was brought forward as a result of a long-term strategic plan put forth by then Secretary Treasurer Mark Walsh, which indicated there was opportunities to obtain funding with the sale of school lands to help offset deferred maintenance costs. At the time, or currently even, the province wasn't providing enough annual facilities grant funds, and so there was a lot of deferred maintenance that was not being taken care of. So 28 schools were put on a list that Mark Walsh has identified, and this is provided in a memo, which I have since been able to obtain through Freedom of Information, that I would like to have families and trustees aware that PACs are now aware that it's out there. And with Central Middle School being on that list and Bekai being on that list, that's obviously something that I was taken aback to find out a couple of years later, that they were on the list to be targeted. So with that, again, which brings us to the open house that was held at Bekai to discuss the seismic upgrade and the options that were presented. Obviously, it was ultimately decided that the school heritage exterior was to be maintained and have the inside, I guess, refurbished for students and staff to access. With that, I guess, project, it also involved the city, because directly behind Bekai, as everyone knows, is the Caledonia project. And with that, they required a larger footprint for the project, which then required, or I guess, an agreement that was made with the school district to lease 8 meters of Bekai land to be utilized and leased to the school district to help offset deferred maintenance. Obviously the monies that are obtained by this lease will not offset deferred maintenance costs, but it greatly impacts the students at Bekai. From the process of 2017 till now, there has been very minimal, if any, communication with families at both Bekai as well as Central Middle School. Even upon requests to have information, it's basically just been information that's been provided through media channels and not through the PAC channels as well. So what there has been feedback that was provided through the Bekai school catchment families, that a number of them indicate concern with the class or the student population at the current Topaz Bekai, and with a large number of students that not only came in this year, but the large number of students that are coming next year in an already oversized.
Sorry, Carrie, I know that the time goes by very quickly, but I have to ask you to wrap up.
to wrap it up? Okay.
Unfortunately, we're already through that 5 minutes, but
Oh, okay.
you're very
Last-
welcome to also submit correspondence to the board as well. So this
Okay.
is by no means your only opportunity to express any concerns you have. I would encourage you to consider writing to the board if you haven't been able to get your message across through the 5-minute presentation portion of our meeting.
Okay, thank you. I would really appreciate the board to revisit the lease agreement as well. And I will certainly reinforce the message that I have submitted through the feedback form that was provided by the Vic High PAC executive as well. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I would be more than welcome to be involved in any further communications with regards to the Vic High project to get out to our Central PAC families that are coming into Vic High next year.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. I know it's challenging to fit a complicated issue into 5 minutes. I appreciate your efforts and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
So folks, that concludes our community presentation portion of our meeting. We're going to go into correspondence, but I just want to say a final thank you to our presenters this evening. And very heartened to hear some exciting news about wonderful grants and further donations from our generous community and our really committed parents who are out there advocating for our students. So thanks so much. Look forward to hearing what we do with that. So we've got 2 pieces of correspondence tonight, folks. One under B1 and B2. I wonder if trustees would like to pull any of those pieces of correspondence for discussion. Okay, so they're there for your information. That we'll move on to trustee reports. Again, we added a chair's report, just a written chair's report. Apologies, folks. I will endeavor to provide the written portion of my report to you about my activities on behalf of you, the board, before the packet goes out in future, but it is there for your information and it will be included on the website too for anybody that's interested in reading my report for the month. We also have at C1C the board work plan for December. But before we move on to trustee reports, if we have any tonight, I'm happy to answer questions if there are any. Okay. All right. So we don't have any trustee reports on the agenda tonight. I just want to make sure. I know we've got we're a new board, and so I appreciate that folks may not have realized that they could add a verbal report or a written report at this portion of our agenda. It's a standing item. You can do a 2-minute verbal report, or you could submit a written report. So just as a placeholder for folks that are new around our table. Just to be aware that that's there and available to you should you want to partake. And so now we're going to move on to D in our agenda, and these are our board committee reports. We have under D1A a draft set of minutes from Education Policy and Directions, and again that is for information only. And there are no recommended motions coming out of Education Policy and Directions. We do, however, under D2 have under A, draft set of minutes for Operations Policy and Planning, and we have a number of approved recommended motions coming from that committee. Now, we moved Trustee McNally's, who submitted the motion, we moved that before the 2B, the motions in the agenda. So I wonder, this is the opportunity for anyone on the board in Trustee McNally's absence that was interested in moving that motion. This would be an opportunity to do so. Trustee Kwan?
Yeah, I think if I move it, then at least it opens up for discussion and then we can vote on it, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So if you move the motion, what I'll do is I will open up the floor to stakeholders and rights holders who might want to provide some comments, and then we would, as a group, start to discuss the motion, the proposed motion. And we're going to move really slowly through this portion because there are some complexities. We may need to pause, ask some questions, and I might suggest at some point that we move into a committee of the whole, or any of you can suggest that we do so if we think that's more conducive to having a discussion. Okay, so Trustee Kwan, did you want to move that motion? Okay. And do we have a seconder? Trustee Carmichael?
Sure.
Yes.
Point of order, if I may. Might it not be, given that we have, if I understand correctly, the potential for a presentation on this, the project, might it not be, is that correct? Are we having a presentation measure?
No, it's not on the
Okay.
agenda, but staff are here and ready to answer questions that the board may have
Okay.
about the proposal and about the design.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. And so just to clarify then, folks, we have Trustee Kwan moving the motion and Trustee Carmichael seconding the motion. So because we've had to move this up our agenda, let's just take a moment so that everybody is clear where we are. The motion that is being moved is under new business at the moment. And so Trustee Kwan, did you want to read the motion into the record for us?
Sure. Recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, direct the superintendent to A, postpone the motion for approval of the architect's plan for the Cedar Hill new build. B, halt any further work of any kind on this project until the board votes to resume further work. And C, provide the board with detailed plans, timeline, and costing for a seismic refit of the existing building.
Thank you very much. All right, so I wanted to, first of all, open the floor to our stakeholders and any rights holders that might be with us this evening who might want to comment on the proposed motion before we move into our discussion. Yeah, President Turcotte, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you.
Hi there.
I know you've heard it, but I just want to mention again, the shop class and how important it would be for the school, for the community, for the students to be able to participate in a shop class the same as their peers in the other middle schools. And just a concern that I've heard from teachers around the size of the classroom. So yeah, having another look, we would appreciate having another look at the building and what could be done. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, hi, Paula, go ahead, welcome. Again, are you our VCPAC rep tonight as well?
Okay. Hello, I'm also here as the VCPAC rep tonight. Tracy couldn't make it. So we have heard a few concerns from parents that I would like to make sure that the board is aware of. In addition to the smaller classrooms, we've also heard that the gym is considerably smaller than in the current building. There are many, many concerns about the shop issue and the air filtration system, and that it is not part of the school, which many parents have brought up as an inequitable issue, since other middle schools do have these. And I know, and I'm sure it will be discussed later in the meeting, but I think parents would like to see some sort of guarantee or some sort of that if the motion does not include this, that we sort of see how this can be added, because it definitely appears to be a priority. And the other thing that has been asked, which I haven't heard addressed in a board meeting, is do we, when the Cedar Hill rebuild proposal came forward and it was made a net zero building, was a proposal also done to make it not a net zero building? And if so, what was that funding looking like?
Thanks very much. So there's a few questions that maybe we could, if I could ask the appropriate staff member to see if we can address. I imagine that trustees will appreciate some clarity around some of these issues before we get into our discussion of the motion. So the first was around the size of the classrooms. And then the second was around the shop space and the possibility for further infrastructure being introduced in the shop at a later date. And then we can maybe deal then with the third question, which was around the costing.
Through the chair, is it okay if staff unmute and sort of answer as per their area of expertise? So I look at Marnie and Maura. Okay.
Okay, so hi. In regard to the classrooms, so the current Cedar Hill Middle School, their classrooms range in area from 54 square meters up to 106. We've hit the ministry standards at 75 square meters. So they are, majority of them are larger than what's currently there. The shop area itself, so it's an applied design, skill, and technology shop, and it's intended to be a combination space that's flexible and forward-looking to expose the students of a variety type of trades and technical. I could also tell you that there's going to be 2 to 3 soldering booths to accommodate soldering and wood burning. There's also going to be some metal shop equipment in there as well, and some hand tools as well. And that's, again, to be a combination space, just to give the students the ability to delve into the different types of trades are out there. And the last one that you asked was regarding the net zero energy ready. So the ministry funded a low carbon design school, and they gave us about $213,000 for the low carbon design. The Board of Education added another about $538,000 to make it a net zero energy ready design. Does that answer your question? Not really sure if that answers your question or not.
Can I add this is Marianne and Beth, can I add one piece to that?
Please do.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to make sure you could hear us. Yes, I'm Marianne Trofmuck. I'm the principal here at Cedar Hill Middle School, and I've got Beth Richardson, our vice principal, with me. We just wanted to relay some factual information about the present building and the room sizes and the number of rooms. So Beth's got that. She will share that.
So we have currently 24 advisories. And of the 24 regular classrooms that we have, 20 of them are actually below 75 square meters. So for the vast majority of our teachers, they would see bigger classroom sizes. We have 4 classrooms that are over 75 square meters. And these are what would have been when it was a junior high school, like the labs, like science labs. These are classrooms with sinks and long benches. So there's a small handful of quite large classrooms, but 20 of our 24 regular classrooms are actually fall quite a bit, starting at 52 square meters, quite a bit under the 75 square meters that would be in the new school.
And to add on to that, in the current design, and I know we don't have it in front of us, but the design has what are called collaboration spaces. And so within pods of classrooms or clusters of classrooms, there is a space outside that sort of connects them all. They're like a neighborhood or a community space, and that can be used and will be used for either groups of classrooms collaborating or individual students going out and doing work. So there is lots of additional space beyond the regular classroom. Because the classrooms have beautiful windows in each of them, it will seem more open and spacious, and they'll be able to see outwards into that community space. Also, there are breakout rooms, I believe, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, either 6 or 7 breakout rooms that come within those spaces too. And so when students want to work in small groups or individually, or if teachers want to work in consultation or doing something with students, perhaps they will be working on individual projects, or they'll be conferencing and so on. They can use that breakout space. And again, that's an individual room. It's got a window, it's got a door. So though this is a next generation school. And so we're not just talking about classrooms in isolation where people do isolated work in a classroom or an advisory. We're talking about communities of learning. And in many schools that we toured, we're not even hearing the word classrooms, we're hearing learning spaces. And that is not synonymous with the present day classroom, but instead it's a collaborative grouping of rooms and a collaborative space with breakout spaces together. So I hope that adds a little value to your thinking about classrooms of the future and classrooms in this next generation school.
Thanks very much. Superintendent Whitten, go ahead. And then
Right,
Marnie, I see your hand. You can just pitch in, Marnie, after Superintendent Whitten. Go ahead.
I think Marnie may be speaking to the gym size. That was another question. And then I would invite Lindsay, Vice Principal of Pathways and Partnerships, to speak about how they contribute and support this area of ADST, as well as Marianne and Beth around the curriculum that is the redesigned curriculum. So how will this all play together in the ADST? So just not forgetting the points or questions that were asked.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that the gym in the new design is actually larger than the current gym, as is the library. And every single classroom also has sinks and will have some storage in it as well. And they all have windows to the outside, which we heard was really important from all the teachers. And this design also allows for a braille room and a sensory room, which is really nice for all of our students to feel included. The gym also has a gender neutral change room as well, which is an addition to this. Oh, and I should also say, as Maura is quickly writing beside me, in the build as well, we're able to tender as an aside the ability to add a mezzanine onto the gym that could be used as a weight room or something as a secondary gym space. So if the budget allows, that can be added, or it can be added at another date. As someone asked about the shop, after the build is completely done, a dust collector could be added to the current shop if that was the choice of everybody.
Thanks very much. Go ahead, Lindsay. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Johnson. I'm the District Vice Principal of our Pathways and Partnerships Department. So thanks for including me in this conversation. We highly value the trades pathway in our department and in our school district. And we really do see the importance of enabling students to be exposed to trades at a young age in elementary, and then begin to explore in middle school. And then once they hit high school, we really want them to be experiencing trades through more hands-on industry, coursework, and out in work experience, and then hopefully beyond. It's important, I think, to know that many of our high schools offer what we call skills exploration classes, and these are for students who are interested in the trades pathway, and they expose students to a variety of trades such as carpentry, plumbing, electrical, etc. And I think that doing the same type of exploration in middle school on a smaller scale, led by a skilled tech ed teacher, could be a really valuable way for students to get excited about working with their head in their hands and pursuing a trades pathway in high school and beyond. And further, I think the idea of these spaces being ADST spaces, what it does is it brings that trades and technology together. And this is already occurring in a lot of our middle schools and will be able to continue. So, for example, we have glow forges in each of our middle schools. And this combines that design thinking idea and a wood project, for example, and then bringing in that technology through the glow forge. And what we see in industry right now is that these are the types of skills that are happening in industry. So combining hands-on skilled trades with technology is the current landscape. And I think that being able to provide this combination beginning in middle school is, again, a really powerful way to enable students to practice this combination. And again, I just think that with the expertise of tech ed teachers, along with them bringing their experience in industry and their training and their skill set, that an exploration type class in middle school that combines trades and technology it really can be an extremely valuable way to still expose students to the trades and inspire them to continue along in high school, taking those more in-depth courses and then beyond. And we talk a lot about our students entering apprenticeships and trades training, and we believe that with our tech ed teachers, we're going to still be able to do that, and possibly bringing industry in and having students visit out, I think, are also powerful ways to do that in these spaces that can provide a little bit more of a combination of trades and technology.
Thank you very much. I see that Beth, you have your hand up. I wonder if you wanted to add to the points that were just raised. And then after that, Trustee Kwan.
I do. Thank you, Trustee Duncan. Just wanted to add to the comments about the gym being a larger size, but it will also have a retractable wall. So that helps to increase our usable gym space, because it's always indoor gym spaces prime real estate, obviously, during our winter months. So that's a helpful addition. The other thing that we heard a lot through our consultation process with feeder schools and our students here and staff and community was the desire for an outdoor learning space. So the new design includes a canopy, which will on the west side of the building, which it has the potential to be used as an outdoor learning space. That's not something we currently have, but something that we heard a lot through the consultation process. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Kwan?
Before I begin, I just want to make sure that I'm not jumping ahead of any of our stakeholders and that we heard from everyone and answered all the questions.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be, well, there will be an opportunity to, I imagine trustees will also have questions, but I believe we have given our stakeholders an opportunity to speak, and so thank you to them. And so I think we can proceed with trustees who I know will have some questions. And again, just to remind folks, so the motion that we're considering right now is that the Board of Education direct the superintendent to A, postpone the motion for approval of the architect's plans for the Cedar Hill new build, B, halt any further work of any kind on this project until the board votes to resume further work, and C, provide the board with detailed plans, timeline, and costing for a seismic refit. I think it's of the existing building. I think it says if, but it should be of, yeah, the existing building. So with that in mind, yeah, Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of questions. First of all, I just wanted to get some clarification. I heard, Beth, that you said that there's 24 advisories right now at Cedar Hill. And I wondered how that works, because we have planned now 21 classrooms. And so does that mean that we're looking already to go into portables before we can do an expansion? Like, how are we going to fit 24 advisories into 21 classrooms? That was my first question. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, no, thank you, Trustee Kwan. And again, feel free, whoever is able to answer the question, feel free to take the floor.
We can answer it based on how the ministry does that, but Marianne and Beth may be able to do a job on how they're going to do it teaching wise. So I don't know which, if you want both answers or you just want Marianne and
sure, no,
Marianne.
both is great.
Okay. So yeah, maybe both, but I guess just to preface things with what we've been told so far, which is that the current school capacity is 575 and the new proposed school capacity would be the same, 575. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Maura Cunningham, Manager of Capital Projects. And I can speak a little bit to how the ministry's area standards work when they fund a 575 capacity school. So the number of classrooms that are approved by the ministry is based on the capacity and the grade level being offered at the school. The existing school, as we see Cedar Hill now, is built as a senior middle school, which is grades 7 to 9. The new school is built under the area standards for a junior middle school, which is 6 to 8. So they provided in our capital project funding agreement, they provided a breakdown of the 575 as 375 elementary students and 200 secondary students. So the way the ministry calculates elementary classrooms, so they took that 375 elementary and they divided it by 25. So that gave us 15 general classrooms at an elementary level. Then we had the ministry area standards, and they're available online. If you Google area standards BC, you can look them up and have a look at them yourselves. But for the secondary students at a middle school, they use a table. And in that table, for 200 secondary seats, they provide up to 9 modules. And this included 4 general classrooms and 5 elective or core modules. So altogether, the ministry funded 19 classrooms. Now, we were able to work with the architect and squeeze some more classrooms in there. So we ended up with the 21 classrooms that we see in our design.
Thanks very much. And Marianne and Beth, did you have something you wanted to add to that? Feel free to take the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So one of the things that we had a team of teachers and EA and Beth and myself touring a variety of schools. And one thing that we found through our touring wasn't just the fact that a new build has a variety of potential elements and different ways that you can shift your paradigm about thinking about what a school would look like. But it was also about the pedagogy and looking at creative new ways of potentially organizing your population. So yes, we will have a population, and yes, we will have X amount of classrooms, that being 21, with our, as I said before, our collaborative spaces and our breakout spaces. And so this leads us to looking at potential opportunities for being creative with reorganizing, reconfiguring what we do with that. And so some schools, as we toured, have found ways to maximize the way that kids can be taught and can be learned, going outside of the actual numbers of classrooms. So I don't have a magic answer at this moment, but we know that we have schools that are models out in the province of British Columbia that are doing things that are allowing those numbers of students to work within a space that has, in this situation, less classrooms in the future, 21 to our 24, but we can still make it work. And that would be looping in potentially exploratory teachers as enrolling, and models such as that. Again, I'm not going to get into any details, but there are creative options that we have already looked at and will, through this process, continue to look at.
Thank you. So just to clarify then, the ministry is well aware that the school is at capacity, and as of the moment it's built, we will essentially need to apply for an extension. And to be clear, we would need to apply for an extension regardless. Like, so let's just say, for argument's sake, that we did nothing and we sustained the same school, we would still be over capacity and need to apply to extend. Is that correct or no? We would have space in the current school. Not that that's a preferred option, but I just want to try to clarify where we're at in terms of the need for further space.
Yeah, you're correct. We looked at the enrollment, so we look at the projected enrollment every year, and this year, with all the known developments around Cedar Hill, it's shown to be over capacity in 2024. So we're able to, in this March, we're able to put an expansion, which is a completely different funding, different ministry fund. We're able to put that in the 5-year capital plan, and yeah, it's a different envelope of funding that we can actually put in the 5-year capital plan for the board to approve. And that would then go to the ministry to get that onto the 10-year capital plan.
Thank you, Marnie. All right, so let's see if we have some more questions. Trustee Kwan, and do you mind if I just give Trustee Painter an opportunity to ask a question, and then I'll come back to you again for a second question? Go ahead, Trustee Painter.
Thank you, Chair, and I expect we'll be riffing off each other as we move. I got a couple of sort of connected ones. The first question I had is, what is the actual timeline that we have at this moment to approve Cedar Hill Middle School design? Do we have a hard deadline that we have to achieve at this moment?
So the ministry has already approved the design as is. Any change in the scope, schedule, or budget will defer the project completely, and we'll have to.
I understand those. I'm asking about, is there a specific date that we have to approve this design?
We're past due. We're past due approving it. So I would say tonight.
When was that date then?
I would have to look it up. I don't have it on me.
Okay.
Let me get back to you. I'll see if I can look it up as we proceed.
Thanks, Marnie.
Okay.
Did you have another question, Trustee Painter, or a follow-up?
Well, it's not so connected anymore, so I can get back in line.
All right, thanks. Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a couple of follow-up questions, which might be quick, hopefully. And going back kind of to how the building was planned and how the ministry funds for population as well as number of classrooms and such. Do they not take into account local agreements? I think our local agreement for class sizes is a little bit different than what the ministry actually mandate. So I just wondered how that comes into play when funding comes in. That was my first question. And then I just wanted some clarification on, I think it was Marianne that was talking about, or Beth was talking about that exploratory teachers could become enrolling teachers, and that would be a way to actually deal with less classrooms but the space that we have. And I just wondered how, if that has any effect, as being a newbie and not knowing so much, does that have any effect on, some of the other regular advisory teachers there if exploratory teachers become enrolling teachers? So.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. So maybe if we can deal with the first question first. I don't know, Marnie, if you're well placed to answer that one, or if we need to look to some other member of staff to answer that.
Hi, it's Maura. I can try to answer it. The ministry uses their area standards, so they don't really look at the agreements because they can be different for every school district, right? And they have to try and roll something out. They do look at 10-year enrollment, and they will look at your operating compared to your nominal capacity, and look at whether you're going to, your operating capacity may exceed what your capacity of your school is. In this case, when we went forward with Cedar Hill as a seismic replacement project, it was looking like there was lots of space in the school and that we wouldn't exceed the capacity. I think that's part of the issue here, is that the school's grown really quickly and that there's more development happening in the area that wasn't. This business case started in 2018, so I don't think it was foreseen at that time that there would be so much development.
Thank you very much. So it sounds like we're hitting a kind of a bit of a block because of just ministry process. It doesn't adjust quickly to the quick, changing reality of growth. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then I'm wondering who's best placed to answer the second question about teacher staffing and impacts of bringing in advisory staff. So I'm open to whoever can answer that question. Feel free to take the floor.
I think if we can just elaborate, Marianne and Beth, on sort of the thinking about how you might combine an academic with an exploratory, and how the two may be flexible, because we also haven't talked about use of other rooms, such as the ADST or other pieces where students move into.
Yeah, thank you, and to the chair. Looking at different options, so this would be one example, and we would look at how do we have the interdisciplinary model more entwined here. So we know that when we have our exploratories here, those students come from their classrooms and they are going off to 4 different spaces presently in our school. So their classrooms are actually empty. So how do we use all of the spaces that we have? So in those times when they would go to exploratory, how do we also use the classrooms? So it's just trying to maximize the use of the space that we have, because the ADST rooms, there are 2 of them in the future school and in the present school, as well as the art room and the drama room. How do we use all of the spaces all of the time rather than having places empty? So it's, again, like I said, it's a creative way of looking at it. There may be other ways out there as well in using those collaborative spaces that are quite large and that exist within those pods of classrooms. So that's a little bit more of an explanation on that. And we have also that multi-purpose space, which is in the sort of the hub and center of the building. So that's another space that could potentially be used for some learning. And then, as Beth mentioned earlier, and a strongly desired space is that outdoor space. So we know that outdoor learning is really important. It came through as one of the design drivers from all parties that contributed in the visioning. We heard from students, staff, community that we want to get our kids outside. We live in Victoria. We don't have, we have great weather. We learned through COVID that our students can and do and really love, for the most part, being outdoors. And so how do we get them more outdoors, and how do we get them learning in the covered space that we will have in the new building and the beautiful natural environment that we have out here? So just some creative ideas.
Thanks for that. I'm going to move to Trustee Painter again for another question. And then folks will kind of, after that, I think we'll kind of just take stock of where we are and how we proceed from here. So Trustee Painter, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. My first question has to do with expansion options. If the district was to receive funding for expanded space, would that include any kind of joint use space, or would that simply be limited to classroom space alone?
What we need. Yeah, that's a really hard question because we can request what we need. So it would definitely be classroom spaces. And then we could look at requesting an extra space, be it an extra multi-purpose space or whatever the school district feels they might need. Maura can elaborate.
Yeah, so depending on what our capacity is, the area standards, depending on how big the addition is, the area standards may also entitle us to more spaces of other kinds, more support spaces. So we would have to look at that when we knew how large the addition would need to be.
And okay, and with that in mind, if we were to apply for an expansion in 2025, when the building is complete and we are putting bums in seats, would we be limited solely to meeting the seating requirements for that existing population at that time?
No, they'd be looking at the 10-year enrollment. So we'd be using the 10-year enrollment to decipher how many new classrooms we needed and what types of support space we needed.
Okay, that's really helpful. One question, and I realize is probably out of context at this point, but when the initial plan was brought up and had to be re-engineered, there was mention in the presentation of the initial proposal being $11 million over budget. Was that $11 million out of the $47 million, or was that $11 million compared to the actual build cost of $19 million? Like we were talking 30 million versus 19 or what?
It's hard to explain. It wasn't over the 47 because within that 47 million, we have some risk reserve that the ministry won't let us allocate to the construction budget. And then we also have what's called soft costs, which are school district costs that weren't part of that as well. So this was just the construction budget, the supplemental items, and the escalation. So above that amount.
So, okay, that's actually, well, I think it's helpful. Just depending on my understanding. I mean, so when the original school was anticipated it being $11 million over budget, that's $11 million over the base construction price of what we're currently seeing. So this one's 19 million. That one was proposed at being 30 million. Is that what we're looking at then?
I think it would be better to break it down in a chart for you. It's hard to.
that would be helpful, because I honestly that just seeing that one number of $11 million out of context is really challenging for me. So
it was site and school work. So there's like a bunch of civil work that needs to happen to the site as well, and then the school. So it was a combination of both that brought it over up to 11 million.
And a lot of the costs that were reduced in 11 million was actually moving the building south. So we had to do less off-site improvements on Garnet Road and part of Cedar Hill Road. So that helped our costs a lot in 11 million. And then in the first plan, they had lots of different roof lines. So we were able to kind of streamline the roof lines and the shape, not all the different angles. Those are the biggest costs to bring the $11 million. $11 million wasn't really lost within the school, if you will. We did decrease some of the internal windows. They had floor to ceiling windows, which would be great. They're still internal windows. They're just not floor to ceiling. So and
maybe this is the better point. Would we still have been working with the same total area in both construction? I guess that's probably the helpful question I should have asked in the first place. And then one of the things that I'm struggling with right now, and it feeds into the conversation we're having about say the dust extraction system, et cetera, is what the touch points were for staff to come to the board to advise us on the situation and to get input. And obviously I was out of commission for most of the last year, so I've missed a significant chunk of this and I'm just not aware of it. But for example, at the start, when we were initially looking at going net zero ready, there was a proposal that was brought forward to the board to say, are you prepared to allocate X amount of money out of capital to be able to pay for these additional values? And one of the things that's hindsight being what it is, it feels like if there had been an opportunity to discuss whether or not the board was willing to explore spending local capital or to seek minor capital requests to get the ventilation hood, we might have been able to address this thing at the outset or earlier on in the process, or at least had the conversation in the process. So what I'm asking is, what were the points along the way that the proposal was brought to the board to get input, or to provide an update and to get input on?
Can I just, before I appreciate that you're willing to address that question. I just want to just caution us that some of the updates were provided to the board in camera, and so some of those items that were provided in camera, obviously we can't discuss in the public meeting, but just wanted everyone to keep that in mind, and then again open the floor back up to Moira or Marnie to the extent that you can provide updates or answer Trustee Painter's question.
Yeah, so In March of 22, the core committee met and did a SWOT analysis. And then that was presented to the board in April of 2022 in camera. And that was regarding the shop and the location of the shop and what that entailed.
Okay, so just
And were there,
did you have a follow-up for that, or?
I'm sorry, Chair. Yes, if you'll indulge. Was that at the time? Was that part of the initial design, or I'm unclear of the timeline as to when we went to sort of the rectangular build, if I can, the current design as we're considering it right now. And would that have had any implications in that conversation?
It would have, because the location of the shop, where it's located. So if you locate it on Cedar Hill Road, there's higher costs for putting a dust collector. And we heard from a lot of teachers and staff about the exploratories all being on the first floor. So that kind of drove the design on the location of the shop.
So sorry, Marnie, just to clarify then, are you saying that keeping the shop on the first floor is a cost-saving measure because of the design requirements?
Oh, no, sorry, not on the first floor. We heard from all the teachers that they wanted all the exploratories on the first floor. So we're able to accommodate that. The location of the shop, whether it be on Cedar Hill Road or off Cedar Hill Road, that had a lot to do with determining where it was going to be located in the design itself. And then that from there, when we determined the location, if it was on Cedar Hill Road or off Cedar Hill Road, then that's where it stood. And then the design was kind of completed or solidified, determined from there.
And it would be more expensive to have it sited, like if we were to put dust collection in the future, for instance, the cost would be higher because of where it's placed?
No, there's a bylaw requirement on noise bylaw. So putting it on Cedar Hill, we just have to be cognizant of the noise, as opposed to putting the dust collector off of Cedar Hill Road. There's less of a buffer between houses. So that's a big one. I mean, you can mitigate that if you want to put, if everybody decided, after the design was completed, they wanted to add a dust collector, you can look at adding the dust collector off of Cedar Hill Road and then doing the ducting into there. We've already talked to the mechanical engineer about that, and that's you can do that. You just got to be considered. There's outdoor classroom and teaching space out back there as well. So the noise is going to be an issue. So just trying to mitigate the noise from the seniors' residence and then the outdoor learning spot. So that all has to be taken into consideration.
No, that's really helpful, and especially if the board decides that it wants to proceed with that. That's really good information to have. Thank you. All right, Trustee Carmichael, go ahead.
Thank you. I just have a clarifying question, just for my own knowledge. So when we talk about applying for an expansion, that leaves, the question that it could be denied. So we could apply for an expansion and then we could be told no, correct? And so that's a concern to me for the simple fact that I have had children in overcrowded schools before, and it's what we do not want to see in this district is overcrowded schools. So I just wanted to be clear on that. So we could be told, no, we can't have the expansion. Thanks.
And just to kind of, again, further clarify that, presumably the school is going to, regardless of the existing school, will be overcrowded in the same amount of time, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah. So I think, it is an issue, and some of the potential mitigating approaches whereby it's included, and expansions included in the capital plan right away, and crossing our fingers essentially because it's out of our control. It is unfortunate. I mean, what I'm hearing is that there is no trigger in the ministry process for approval to kind of revisit escalating or school growth. later in the process. And it's unfortunate that we started so many years ago down this road that there isn't a trigger within the ministry process to take, note of and address changing enrollment or projected growth. Yeah, go ahead, Moira. And then I see your hand, Trustee.
With our funding, because we have seismic funding, it's a separate envelope than expansion. So if we had applied at the same time as our seismic for expansion, then we could have built a bigger school. But because we just were looking for a safe school at the time when we applied, that's what we received, is a replacement with a safe school.
Yeah, thank you. Now, that I think it's important for the board to understand the impacts of the different funding envelopes and kind of where we are. All right, so yeah, Trustee Gagnon, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Kind of two questions. The first one regarding the facility condition index. Is Cedar Hill Middle School the highest in that index in our district?
No, we've got Bank Street School would be definitely higher, but it's empty. I'm trying to think. It's pretty, we'd have to look into that completely, but it's one of the highest. The fact that we've got a lot of critical schools in our district, but Cedar Hill would be considered one of the higher ones, just because we were able to get the seismic replacement. And that's one of the reasons why we got the actual seismic replacement.
Yeah, so our school has a FCI of 0.8.
Yeah, 0.81.
The ministry average for all of the province is 0.44, I think, somewhere around there. And when we do a new school, we'll have 0.0. So our school will be, and it'll probably stay that way for quite a while.
Okay, thank you. Second question, if I may, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, hypothetical world, we approve the design. New school gets built, opens up on schedule 2025, and the students move from the existing middle school into the new school. What does the demolition of the existing building look like, and what is the timeline, like an estimated timeline of that process and how it affects the schoolyard for students?
So part of the demolition, it would take about 4 months. So we'd go in and you'd have to do the abatement first. So all the asbestos and the hazardous material would be moved, which would essentially strip a lot of the school. That would be cleaned up first by a professional company. And then from there, it would just be demolition after that. That would take about a month or two. They'd also dig on the site, because that's also the framework where our geofield is going. So that is going to be a big thing. So that our geofield is going to go right there, and then they'll put the grass in the field and sod it. So by the following summer, it should be good and healthy for the kids to start playing on that field again. So the field isn't going to be used for approximately a year, just to have the actual sod take effect and take hold, so the kids can play on it with not turning into a mud pit. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no,
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, did you have a follow-up for that? No? Okay. All right. So any other further questions? And then I want us to then focus on going back to the motion that's before us, and each trustee, if you want to have up to 2 minutes to express your views about whether you're in favor or against the motion that's on the floor, then you can. Okay, that's kind of how it works. And if you have any questions process-wise, again, for new trustees, feel free just to stop me and ask those questions. Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands for any other questions. So would anybody, I assume the movers of the motion may want to speak. I don't know if they've changed their minds, or if they want to speak in favor or against the motion. Yeah, Trustee Kwan, if you want to kick things off, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I moved the motion basically to get the discussion going and have, kind of both motions in the same place. I would say at this point, I'm not comfortable with leaving schools in an unsafe, unseismically upgraded building for another 5 years if we, if the plans were to go back to the drawing board. I think there's some things that we can definitely do to upgrade this new build already that, you know, perhaps maybe we can add to the second motion so that we keep a placeholder, that we remember to put certain things on a 5-year capital plan, although I'm sure our staff are more than capable of doing it themselves. So I'm not sure that we need to do that. I will defer to my colleagues and staff as to whether that's needed, but I think, you know, postponing this approval and going back to the drawing board it is a risk that I'm probably not willing to take.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Appreciate that. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Yeah, Trustee Carmichael, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. This school is going to be serving our district for 75 years, give or take. That's a significant amount of time, and so we do want to ensure that it has everything that our students need currently and in the future when the needs will certainly change. I don't love the design. I don't love the lack of real trades being taught in the school, but I do have to agree with my colleague Trustee Kwan that we take the safety of students in this district so very seriously. It's actually our #1 priority, and so having said that, I don't feel comfortable leaving any students for any period of time in an unsafe building, so that's what I think.
Thank you, Trustee Carmichael. Trustee Gagnon, go ahead.
I ultimately have to echo my colleagues' words here. We have an obligation to our students and our staff that are using this school to ensure that it is a safe space for them. And regardless of whether or not the design is perfect, inaction or delay would mean jeopardizing the long-term and short-term safety of the students of Cedar Hill Middle School. And because of that, I don't think we can afford a delay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Trustee Painter.
Nothing new to add, apart from a heartfelt desire for much closer connections between staff and board moving forward on future plans. I think that the board has the capacity to make decisions that can address some of the challenges at an earlier stage when it's not going to create design challenges or, you know, otherwise jeopardize the project.
Thank you, Trustee Painter. So I'll put myself, oh, no, I will wait. I will cede the floor to my colleague. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, similarly to what everyone else has said, I also am primarily concerned with the safety of the students at the school. I also feel that we have discussed the ability to add the shop back and make the shop more equitable later on, and I think that's something we can kind of or should commit to thinking about as we go forward. And I also appreciate the collaborative spaces in the school. As a teacher on call, I go to various schools, and the schools that have those collaborative spaces really do utilize them in really interesting ways for the benefit of students. So, yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Bio. Appreciate your contribution as well tonight. Yeah, Trustee Mabubi, go ahead.
This is more so just because everyone else spoke. I pretty much agree with everything that all of the other trustees have said so far. I just want to put it out there.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, sometimes it's just nice to be able to say, yeah, I agree. Fair enough. And I will keep it brief. I also agree. I think, you know, with the words of my colleagues, and I think there are opportunities. I'm hopeful that there will be some very constructive ways that we can collaborate with staff in order to come up with some options to address some of the concerns over time. And I think the placeholders in the normal capital planning cycle that will help us to keep our minds focused on how we might do that. So without further ado, I'm going to call us to a vote. so all those in favor of the motion, with a show of hands. All those opposed? All right, I think we're there. So that was all opposed. All right, thank you, trustees. And thank you very much to our staff for helping us with our questions and helping us work through that. So now we're going to go back up. Just bear with me a second, folks. We're going to go back up to the next motion. This is back to the recommended motion from Operations Policy and Planning. And that is that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, approve the Cedar Hill Middle School design as presented. Can I have a moment here before we move it? This is a new motion, and I appreciate we've taken our time and going through questions, but before we put it on the floor, I just want to give another opportunity to our stakeholders if they want to comment on the new motion. So this is again to approve the design as presented. All right, so can I have a mover then? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a second. Thank you, Trustee Mabubi. Okay, so let us move right into our discussion. I assume that because we've taken the time to ask questions of staff that we're in a position now to move ahead with any debate, but if there are any other lingering questions, then please feel free to ask them now. Trustee Kwan?
Yeah, I'll just look to my colleagues to see if if it's necessary to add any of those things that I hear coming from us with our discussions, as according to the dust collector, anything that we need to add on the capital plan, if that's a necessity to add to this motion, or if you feel like the work we'll do from here until the end of the year will cover that. So I defer to everyone else.
Yeah, no, thanks, Trustee Kwan. I think it's a good question. I've had to think about it myself, and I think the opportunity will be to add a motion, or I think it'll come in the capital plan submission that we'll be looking at very soon, and then so that'll be our opportunity to add to the capital plan. And then in terms of the shops, I think we do need to have a motion, and that would be my recommendation to my colleagues, but I think it's best for us to think about what that motion should include. And I think rather than rushing it through tonight, it's not going to affect the motion on the floor. I think taking some time to consider what it is we're asking and what it is we want to see moving forward for the shops. A space at Cedar Hill might be prudent. But I'm open to hearing from colleagues and also from staff who might have some advice for us about how we might progress addressing some of the shop related concerns.
Okay, so I'll speak from a staff perspective, if you don't mind.
No,
so we can definitely put the expansion on the 5-year capital plan that the board would approve in March. We can also look at putting a dust collector on the SEP program. Keep in mind, we still have a squamalt on the SEP as a dust collector replacement, and it's been on there for 3 years. There's some things that have transpired. I don't think it will be approved this year. We're really hoping that the new roof at South Park will be approved. So just keep that in mind that it is in the hopper. It's South Park is #1 right now, with squamalt dust collector being #2. So we can put it in different priorities as you guys approve it, but we can definitely put it on the capital plan.
That's really helpful. Thanks, Barney. So yeah, so I mean, I think maybe what we could then look to do is maybe at ops have a discussion on maybe a future agenda where we could discuss some of the potential strategies or ways to address the dust collector at Cedar Hill. Does that work for everybody, or is there an interest in doing something tonight on this?
Sorry, one more thing to add. Maura just said too, when we're looking at doing the addition, we can look at adding it in there as well. The ministry may or may not fund it, but it's definitely worth the ask. So there's 2 locations to add it to.
Great. No, thank you. I appreciate all the options and the suggestions of potential strategies. That's super helpful. So yeah, I think given what we're hearing, yeah, unless anybody wants to move something, I think it sounds like we've got some possible discussions to have maybe through our standing committees with staff about how we could progress some of those strategies. So is there anything else, any other amendments to the motion on the floor? No, okay. And so does anybody want to motivate or has anything else they want to say before we vote? Yeah, Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a big thank you to, everyone who's, been involved with this from the start. And, that includes everyone here. And I'm sure there's lots of other people that were involved as well. And to those who came and, answered all our rapid fire questions tonight, as well as at the ops meeting. I just really appreciate the time you've taken to really educate us on this design.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I would echo those sentiments. There's some really exciting aspects to the design, and the idea that we're going to have a safe school is wonderful to hear. And given all the challenges we have with our older buildings, this is just hopefully going to be the start of many seismic upgrades in the future at many more of our schools. But no, thank you so much to everybody for being here. I know you've been here quite a bit lately and at ops as well. So thank you so much for helping us get to this point. Anybody else would like to say anything? Trustee Gagnon, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It's something I want to say is that while we're approving a design tonight, or not, we're voting on the design tonight that may have some perceived shortcomings. It's not something that we as a board cannot amend later. What we can't amend later is the safety of the students in this school, the structural integrity of the existing school. It is an immediate issue that requires addressing. Whereas there are certainly, looking at the shop, looking at the classroom sizes, looking at the school size itself, those are all things that we absolutely need to consider and monitor going forward. But for me, they are not quite nice to haves, but the need to have is the school safety. And to me, that is of the utmost importance. And I just wanted to stress that again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, folks. Well, without further ado then, thank you again to everybody for your contributions tonight. And I'm going to call us to a vote. So all in favor of the motion on the floor with a show of hands. All right, and that is unanimous. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate it. All right, so let's see. We are now at D3, Audit Committee. And so we've got an Audit Committee report on our agenda and a recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, accept the September 2022 quarterly financial report as presented to.
Point of order, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
We skipped one of the recommended motions in D2B.
Thank you. You think I wouldn't forget that given this motion I brought forward. Thank you for stopping me. We don't want to forget that motion. Let's back ourselves up, or I'll back myself up. Here we go. So D2C, we've got another recommended motion here that the Board of Education, again, this came from OPS, and this is recommended by OPS, that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, direct the chair to respond to the letters received by the board from BC PAC, dated October 12th, 2022, and GBTA, dated October 17th, 2022. And we also have those letters in the pack up again. So we have the recommended motion from OPS. Anybody would like to speak to it, or any questions before we proceed? All right, well, let's call it to a vote. let's maybe get it on the floor first. So can we have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Gagnon, and a seconder. Trustee Painter, thank you. All right. One final call for anyone who wishes to speak, and then I'll call it to a vote. All right, all those in favor? And again, that is unanimous. Thank you, folks, and thank you for reminding me not to pass over the motion I put forward. Now we're going to move on to D3 Audit Committee. So we do have a recommended motion from that committee, and it is to recommend again to accept the September 2022 quarterly financial report as presented to the Audit Committee. Do we have any questions about the report, or is there anything through the superintendent to staff that you wanted to raise or bring to the board's attention?
Nothing for me, Chair Duncan. Just look at Acting Secretary Treasurer Stride if she has anything to add.
No, I don't have anything to add.
All right, thank you very much. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a seconder. Trustee Carmichael, thank you. All right. All those in favor? And again, that is unanimous. Thank you, folks. All right, so now we're at D4 on our agenda, Budget Advisory Committee. We have our draft minutes for information. And are we moving quite along to E1, Superintendent's report. And Superintendent, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our student.
Thank you. Unfortunately, our student wasn't able to make it. She was signed up, but then sent her regrets. So I will share, though, if I may proceed to my monthly report. We have had some very interesting and meaningful conversations with the student reps. So the last meeting we had was November 14th, which was via Zoom, and the topic of discussion was consent education. So we've been working with the group around that topic and hearing from students on their thoughts and looking at a continuum of supports and recognizing that the ministry is coming out with some guidelines around that. But it was fantastic to have the opportunity to talk with 11 students and hear their thoughts around that as they exit out of the school system at grade 12, but really looking at it through a K through 12 lens of healthy relationships and all the way through to the consent ed. So that was a highlight. You'll see that in my board report listed under the goal 1. Just the board report or the superintendent's report is for information. I do like, though, to focus on the gratitude. I think I feel so privileged to be able to meet with different people and have conversations as we move forward. Wanted to express gratitude to Chief Rob Thomas for joining us at the inaugural board meeting and sharing a message on behalf of the Esquimalt Nation. Also, many thanks to the Reynolds Jazz Quartet and the Drum Circle students who came. A fantastic way to open up this year's board and hear from the students. And also thanks to the city clerk, Kurt Kingsley, for coming and doing the oath of office. We do have I wanted to mention also that we will have a presentation from Manager Mark Baggett at Ed Ops Combined on December 5th to give us an update on custodial services. So that update will be at December 5th. So I didn't want to forget to mention that. And that is my monthly report.
Great, thank you very much, Superintendent. Trustees, did you have any questions for the superintendent in relation to her report? Yeah, Trustee Gagnon.
Thank you, Chair. Just under goal 3 of the report, we have the Ukrainian open house, and it says School District's Welcome and Learning Center, but I was under the impression that that's occurring at Cedar Hill Middle School tomorrow night. And I was just wondering if there's one or the other.
Yeah, no, you're correct. I think it is in alignment with the school district's Welcome and Learning Center. However, the location of the dinner is at Cedar Hill Middle School.
Great, thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other questions for the superintendent? All right, would someone like to then move the motion, which is to receive the superintendent's report as presented? Thank you very much, Trustee Bio, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Carmichael. All those in favor? And again, that's unanimous. Thank you, trustees. All right, we're moving on to E2 of our agenda, Secretary Treasurer's report. We have a monthly report for the Secretary Treasurer. Did you have anything that you wanted to highlight? I suppose our acting Secretary Treasurer. Anything that you wanted to highlight from your report?
Nothing really to highlight specifically. I just put in there all of the things that have been in my calendar for the last 2.5 weeks. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Trustees, any questions? Trustee Painter, go ahead.
The meeting with Vic Hospice jumped out. I was wondering if there's anything that's suitable for sharing in public at this point.
Nothing that I can share at this point, but it was more Kim had sent out some introduction emails and suggested that we get together to get up to speed on what's going on right now. So I did get a chance to meet with Kevin Harder from Vic Hospice.
All right, could I have someone move the motion to receive the Secretary Treasurer's report as presented, please? Thank you, Trustee Painter. And the second, Trustee Mabubi, thank you. All right, all those in favor? And again, that is unanimous. All right, so now we are going to move on to F on our agenda, which is the question period. Do we have any questions from the public?
There are no questions from the public.
No questions from the, okay. And I'm just going to double check my email too, just to make sure that there isn't anything sent directly to me. Looks like the trustee email might have a couple of questions in it.
If there was an individual who put forward questions, and then after the comprehensive Q&A with staff, they withdrew their question.
Okay.
Questions, sorry.
Okay. Okay.
So just double check. So just double check. I forwarded you an email just like 2 minutes ago.
Okay. Yeah, nope, that's great. Thank you very much. That is right. Okay, so we are through question period. We didn't have any questions tonight. Thank you so much, Lisa, for helping us with that. All right, so we are now moving on to public disclosure of in-camera items. We do have a number of Section 72 reports in our packet under G1 through G3. Just wanted to highlight the these reports don't appear to have dates. Let me just get to them. Bear with me, folks. So yeah, so I just wanted to highlight that we need to amend these reports and just include the date and time and whether it was a special in-camera board meeting or regular in-camera board meeting. So just some minor amendments that need to happen to those. And then in terms of the Section 72 report on page 93 of the backup, if we could just review the attendees. I think the list of attendees is incomplete at the moment. So maybe we could just revisit these. My suggestion would be that we just revisit them, make the amendments, and maybe just include them on our next backup as well with the corrections made. All right. So let me just get back up to our agenda. Okay, so we're just going to head now into H on page 4 of our agenda. It's new business, and we have a motion from Trustee Kwan to do with custodial. Trustee Kwan, did you want to move your motion? Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Trustee Carmichael, thank you. Okay, so without further ado, so again, the motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, direct the superintendent to identify the cost to increase custodial levels to the previous year, 2021-22, and provide recommendations to the board on using funds coming out of revised budget allocations toward custodial deficits. All right, the floor is yours, Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Okay, basically wanted to get this on the floor, but I know that we've just heard from Superintendent Whitten that we will have a report at the combined standing committee meeting next week. So wondering if it might be more appropriate to table or refer to our next board meeting after we've kind of heard that report and you know, and know a little bit more around you know, what we're looking at, and also perhaps that there might be some information coming out of that report that might shape the motion in a little bit different way as well. So I'll put that on the floor and see what my colleagues think.
Yeah, no, thank you, Trustee Kwan. So we've got a motion to table until the 12th of December board meeting, by which time the board will have received a report from staff at ops on the 5th of December. I think it is the combined ops and ed policy. Okay, so what do we, well, let's open it up for some discussion. Yeah, Trustee Carmichael.
Sorry about that. We need all the information that we can get, and so I'm okay with tabling the motion, but I do want to thank Trustee Kwan for bringing it forward, because I think this board has heard from everybody, stakeholders, rights holders, everybody, how important it is for our custodial daytime team to be back up and running, and how important that is, especially given we're coming into cold and flu season, and the quicker that we can get the desks and the door handles and everything in our schools clean by daytime custodians, the better we're all going to fare, and that includes parents and staff as well as students. And so I do want to thank her for bringing this motion forward, because I think it's really important, and I'm glad that we are working on it, whether or not we table it tonight or not. At least we're working on it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Carmichael. Yeah, no, and the only thing I would add is that I do support a motion to table. I think it's prudent to do so, and I think that we're meeting so soon on the 5th of December. I think I might feel differently if we were not meeting so soon, given some of the urgency around some of the concerns. But because we are meeting so quickly, we will be in a I think a better position to decide how to proceed once we receive that report. So it does sound like a prudent approach to me, but let's call it to a vote if there's no one else that wants to speak to the motion to table. Okay, so all those in favor of tabling the motion until the 12th of December board meeting. And that is unanimous. Right, thank you, folks. Now we have, or do we have a notice, any notice of motions from anyone under H2 of our agenda? No notice of motions. Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn then? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and second from Trustee Gagnon. Thank you so much. We made it through, folks. 20 past 9. I wish you all a good night, and thank you so much for